Good day, everyone. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you for Reason to Resist from Tehran, Iran on July 3rd, 2026. And I'm very pleased to be joined this evening by Hussein Shafiei, better known as Huz. Thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure.
So, Huz, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, which I find very interesting?
Which part?
Maybe in just sort of broad strokes, you lived for a very long time in the United Kingdom. You're Iranian.
Yeah.
And sort of where have you spent the majority of your life, and how long have you been in Iran?
So I'm an Iranian by blood. My mother and father are Iranian. My father is from the northern parts of Iran. My mother's from Tehran. I was born in Qatar, so I've got Arabic culture as part of my life. I've got Iranian by blood. And I've been brought up in England since 1976 till 2026. So I've had 50 years. I've worked in Qatar from 2003 to 2019, so again I got seeped into the Qatari culture, and I feel like I'm a global citizen. I speak English, the Queen's English, and I also speak Farsi, and I also speak Arabic, so a mixture of three cultures, and I think I'm happy to say that I think I've taken the best part of all three cultures as part of my character.
And what do you do for a living nowadays?
I'm basically a British politician. I'm a member of the Workers' Party of Britain. I am a member of the National Leadership Council, so there's about 10 of us that are members of that. I used to be the National Election Coordinator for the Workers' Party of Britain, so I was the one that, managed 152 candidates for the election that took place in 4th of July 2024.
And this is the party that is led by the estimable George Galloway.
My beautiful George Galloway, that I love to bits.
Extraordinary individual. When did you come to Iran to live, and what prompted you to do that?
So I've been wanting to come to Iran since June 2025 when Iran got attacked. And I was not allowed to come here because I had been in a car accident. I got hit while I was on an e-scooter and my back has been broken. My T12 is shattered, and because of the shattering of my T12, I couldn't get permission to fly because turbulence could have caused a spinal injury which could have paralyzed me from the waist down, from T12 down. So I wasn't allowed to fly, and I couldn't come over here during the June 12-day war against Iran by America and Israel. But I've been wanting to come back here, and I don't know if you know or not, but basically I've got a huge footprint when it comes to Palestine. I happily say that I'm one of maybe 10 people that have been fighting the good fight against Israel and against Zionism since 2014 on social media platforms, and pretty much out there in every march in England since whenever I've been in England, there's a march for Palestine. I've been at the forefront, filming it, recording it, being a photojournalist, and providing as much help as I can to the Palestinian cause. In any way you can think of. I'm a member of all sorts of groups that are trying our best to fight on behalf of the Palestinians and the injustices that they've suffered at the hands of the Israelis. And the thing that I hate the most is that they turn around and say to people like me, if you love Palestinians so much, why don't you go to Gaza and fight for them? Well, I couldn't, because I'm not a Palestinian. But in this war, I am an Iranian, and they basically turned around and said, why don't you go back to Iran? I couldn't go back before because of my back, but I was given permission on the 7th of May this year for the first time after my back had been broken to go there, and I got my passport within 3 or 4 days, which is a miracle in itself. And I flew back just to make the point that I'm a great believer in my country. I'm a great believer in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and I am 100% sure that Iran is the last shield of humanity against Zionism, because there is nothing to stop America being completely controlled by Zionism.
Now, I'm sure you know, and if you disagree, please feel free to express your disagreement, that given the depravity of these people, the U.S. and Israeli leadership, if you can call it that, it is entirely possible that they will resume pretty much at any time their vicious bombardment of this country. If that were to happen, the hot war were to be reignited by the, shall we call it the Epstein regime, what would you do? Would you remain?
I am 100%, that's why I'm here. Because I can't sit there from my luxury house in Bayswater telling people no surrender and watch other people die or other people under bombs. I come here, I live in Tehran. I will not be going to the north or the south. I'll stay in Tehran if the bombs drop. And the bombs did drop 3 or 4 weeks ago. They dropped bombs in Karaj. They dropped bombs in other parts of Tehran. I didn't go anywhere. I have no intention of leaving. I've given a promise to my friends, my fellow Iranian compatriots, that I'm not leaving here until July 2027. I don't think this conflict will stay around a hot war by then. It will hopefully be finished, but I'm not going anywhere.
Now, before we began this interview, you and I had an intriguing discussion today about free speech in Iran. And you were talking to me specifically about some things that you witnessed in open squares during this period of negotiation with the United States. Could you talk to us about that?
So I've come from Britain, and I've been, taught that there is absolute control over what people say in Iran, that people are scared, that if you open your mouth up, you go to prison. If you say anything against the government, you're going to get, picked up and things will happen to you. That's what we're taught in the West. That's what we're taught, that's why there is no freedom in Iran. That's why Iran needs to be saved from the mullahs. That's why Iran is, a dangerous terrorist organization, country organizing this, that and the other. I was absolutely shocked, gobsmacked when I went to these squares. The TV channel, like TV channel 2 or 3, which is like the national channels, are filming people standing there, calling the president, telling him, get down here, saying to him, we don't want a ceasefire. We want to continue with this war. Stop, selling our country down the road. And you know what? I don't see that level of antagonism in British politics from the public. You can't turn around and open your mouth up against, any kind of Jewish supremacy. Because if you do, if you're a doctor, they shut you down, they kick you out of the NHS, as has happened to Dr. Rahma, as has happened to Dr. Naz, as it's happened to Dr. what's her name? Rahyana. That's just the doctors. Solicitors. Everyone, you're not allowed to open your mouth up. In Iran, they can say whatever they want. And for me, it's unbelievable. And what I didn't also realize is that in Iran, there is an opposition that doesn't agree with what the government is doing. And it is a live opposition. There's no one threatening to put them in prison. There's no one threatening to do anything to them. In fact, the country is as vibrant as any democracy. In fact, it's more vibrant than democracies over there because people are screaming blue murder at each other and no one is putting anyone in prison. Over there, and I'm sorry to say it, but we don't have a democracy in Britain. We don't have a democracy in America because you vote for a Republican, you vote for a Democratic president. Out of the 435, elected members of the House of Representatives and the 100 senators, 94 of those senators take AIPAC money. Out of the 435 House of Representatives, like 93, I think there's 6 or 7 or 10, maybe maximum of 10 people that don't take AIPAC money. That means the whole of the legislature of the United States of America is compromised to Jewish supremacy. So that it doesn't matter who you vote for, whether you vote for a Democrat or a Republican, you're getting an Israeli first president with an Israeli first legislature. That is what it's like. In Britain, whether you vote for Labour or Tory, they have already sold their souls to the Zionist state, which is why we had a genocide under the Tory government, and then we thought the Labour government would come in and not do that, and the genocide continued.
Right. And of course, there are other well-funded constituencies, billionaires who are pursuing other agendas, for example, the military-industrial complex, the prosecution of other wars around the world that enrich the military-industrial complex that are also buying off these politicians in these countries. So a point well taken. Now, in your interactions with people, I understand, you're not in a position to offer, unless you can, some kind of definitive polling data about where people stand on these negotiations. But just in terms of your own personal interactions, how widespread do you think the opposition is to what the negotiating team is currently pursuing with the Trump regime?
The majority of the people don't want it. And I don't have polling figures, but the people I see screaming blue murder in the streets, they're not a few. They are the voice of the majority of the people. Mm-hmm. In this country, they have 3 or 4 groups. One group is the revolutionaries. They're called Inqilabi. Okay, they're the ones who are the most hardcore group of people that believe in the revolution, and they want vengeance for what's happened to Haj Qasem Soleimani, which they don't think they've had, and the person who that was Donald Trump. They want revenge for what happened to the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, which they still haven't got, and they want blood vengeance. They don't want to sit there and have people negotiate with the people that killed him, which is Donald Trump and his organization, his White House administration, or Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner, or any of these people. So that is a sizable portion of people who don't want that. There is a group of people called the Grey, Khakistari they're called. That's about 60% of the population. That 60% of the population right now has joined the Inqilabis because they also don't want to have a ceasefire, and they don't want to have a humiliation. And they think that at the moment, if we negotiate with these people, we're humiliating our nation. And they don't want blood revenge, but what they don't want is a humiliating ceasefire. They want it from a position of strength and power, and they want to be in a position to turn and say, you're doing it on our terms. Now, Sayyid Mustafa Khamenei, the son of, has put his 10-point plan in place, which is far more radical than the 15-point plan. And he's made a couple of points as well, that, you know, he doesn't want the nuclear question to be negotiated. They did negotiate it, and they were told not to. So that's something that's annoyed the living daylights out of a lot of people in this country. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the Pahlavi people, who would support anything that would destroy the Islamic Republic. Mm-hmm. You know, if you didn't have Pahlavi and you had something called the Tree Party that would possibly be able to take out the Islamic Republic, they'd all shout Javi Tree, which is, you know, victory to the tree, or victory to that chair, whatever it's called. They vehemently detest the Islamic Republic, and they have a sizable proportion. So I'd say about 20% of the population, maybe more. And they are now in a position where, because of the bombings that took place, because of the deaths that have taken place, they're very quiet, because they've understood that the consequences of being on the wrong side of history is now a very bad thing for a lot of people. You know, and there's some people, for instance, one person as an example, who phoned up a friend of mine and said to him that, I hope that the Islamic Republic gets destroyed by the bombing of the Israelis. And the guy turned around and said, you know what, your family's in this country. You know, your mum and dad in this country, my mum and dad in this country. You shouldn't wish that on me or the rest of our people. He's going, no, the Israelis and Americans know what they're doing. They're going to hit military targets. And the thing is this, in the third day, the building that his sister was in was bombed. And what he wished on his country was paid for by the price of his sister's life. So that was a bit of karma for people like him.
And the fourth group?
The MEK. Mm-hmm. The MEK are this group of people who don't have a lot of support inside the country. You could say next to nil. But they're the group that the American government would like to see come in. They're the ones that have been bankrolled by the American Secret Services, CIA and everything else. They're the ones that are connected with, that may have some kind of military prowess. They're the ones who would be involved with the Kurds. They're a non-existent power in this country, but they are a power because they're supported by the Secret Service, they're supported by the American Secret Services.
So I think we can safely say that you're not an adherent of the latter two groups. Of the first two, which one would you say you belong to?
I would suggest that I'm part of the first group. I'm a revolutionary. I believe in the Islamic Republic.
Now, when you say that, do you consider yourself, I hope you don't find this to be too personal a question, do you consider yourself to be a devout Muslim, or would you say that you're a secularist?
I am a devout Muslim. Mm-hmm. And I came back to Islam because of the example of the Supreme Leader. Mm-hmm. So
This was relatively recently that you...
So he was killed on the 28th of February, and I didn't know he was killed. I put an Instagram video out saying we need to fight, can't surrender, we must fight this war, tooth and nail, no surrender whatsoever. I found out on the 29th that he was killed, and I was into a massive depression. I was really unwell, mentally unwell as you could possibly be. And then 3 days later, it came out that Dr. Ali Larijani had gone to him and said to him, Ara means, like our leader, and said to him, we need to move you from here. You can't stay here. We need to put you in a protected place. And he turned around and said, yep, more than happy to do that, but can you promise me that you can do the same for the other 93 million citizens of this country? And they said, we can't. He goes, well, in that case, I can't go, because I don't want people to turn around and say that I'm not willing to sacrifice my life for this country, and I don't want to be protected. So he stayed in his office. Mm-hmm. And his example, to me, was an example of the highest form of courage. He's quite happy to die, just like Imam Hussein. And I was brought up in a boarding school, in a Catholic school to start with, and I was brought up in a Church of England school, and we're taught to be atheists. When I left school, I was an agnostic, and I was proud of being an agnostic, and I was not religious right up until the death. And when I heard how this old man was willing to sacrifice his life for his beliefs, for his country, and for his religion, I then took the Shahada, and I said, La ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, which is what anyone says if they want to become a Muslim. And I did that on the 14th of March. I did that 14 days after his death. Mm-hmm. And I've become a Muslim since. And I was a vehement atheist and agnostic, call it what you will. So I've come back to that religion, which is the religion of my country, the religion of my mother and father. And I am trying my best to be as devout as I can. But I've always led my life as a good Muslim anyway, because I think a good Muslim or a good Jew or a good Christian is about just doing the good things in life, to do good things, and you don't need to do bad things. And I've led my life in that attitude. Mm-hmm. So it's not a far stretch for me or any Christian to turn around and say, it's literally like the golden rule. I want to be treated the way I treat other people. Just do the same.
Now, you obviously, the 200 to 250 million Shia Muslims in this world have a great deal of respect for Imam Khamenei. You lived in Qatar, which is overwhelmingly Sunni, I believe. How would you say, based upon your interaction with the Sunni Muslim community, that, and I'm not talking here about the autocracies, I'm talking about ordinary citizens. Mm-hmm. In your interactions with ordinary citizens in the Sunni Muslim world, how do you think the general view is, or what do you think it is with regard to Imam Khamenei?
So before this war, what you've got to understand is you've got to look back at the history of the Islamic Republic and what happened with the revolution. When the revolution took place, the whole point of it was that it was supposed to be an Islamic revolution which spread across the borders of the country. And what they did was they all ganged up, got Iraq to attack. Iraq was supported by the Soviet Union, was supported by America, supported by all the Gulf countries, and they attacked Iran, and Iran had to fight for its life. Mm-hmm. Iran survived that onslaught from the whole world, and it became a stronger nation for it, and it taught resilience to its people. Iran ended up getting sanctioned for it. The Sunni countries have always been scared of the Islamic revolution because they're all autocracies, because they all have kings and monarchs and princes which run these places. And these guys don't want an Islamic revolution. And because they don't want an Islamic revolution, they didn't like Khomeini, they didn't like Khamenei. They respect them now because of what they've seen, what Iran has done to the American bases, what it's done to Israel, what it's done to them, and what it's capable of doing, but is not doing more than that. Because Iran's attitude is one of reciprocity. You attack a bridge, we attack a bridge. You attack a water plant, we attack a water plant. Iran is more than capable to wipe the floor with a lot of the things that they want to. But they are very mindful of the fact that they've not hit civilian targets. And the Arabs understand, the Sunni Muslims understand that Iran could have done that, but they haven't. Their minarets have not been destroyed. The only places that have been destroyed are things that have been hit in Iran equivalent of in those countries. So they respect Iran a lot more now than they did before, because I don't think anyone expected Iran to be as militarily efficient as it was. You know, because I certainly didn't think so before the 12-day war that we'd be able to do what we did. But we did. And it changes, you know. I always say it, when you start winning wars, you become really popular with absolutely everyone.
That is the sad reality of human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to conclude our discussion today with a rather troubling anecdote you shared with me about British politics, and specifically about this extraordinary politician, George Galloway, and his recent attempt to win in the riding of Rochdale in the United Kingdom. You told me about some rather credible evidence, I say that in my view as a lawyer, that there was perhaps electoral fraud. Could you explain to us what happened?
I can happily say that I believe 100% that there was electoral fraud. And the reason is this. So in Britain, when you have a general election or any kind of election, we've got something called the mail ballots. The mail ballots sit in the local council, and the people that mail in their votes, their letters, because it's a letter that comes to you, that letter then gets your vote on it. You put it in the mail and it goes to the council. The council then takes it and scans it, and then puts that letter into their mailbox ballot. That mailbox ballot stays at the local council until 10 o'clock of the last day. So 4th of July is the election day, the final day. So 10 o'clock, which is the time when all voting stops, they have to take that mail ballot box, to the counting centre in the same way as all the other boxes from all the different wards, because everything is done into wards. So, for instance, like the Westminster's got 21 wards. So that City of, for instance, I stood as a Member of Parliament for the City of London and Westminster, and all of the area, all the, what's it called, council, like the wards, have to have a counting area. All of those all of those boxes full of votes get taken to the counting centre. All of those boxes, voting boxes from all the different places, have to come in through a specific door, and we normally have our party members following the box from the counting, you know, where the people have been casting their votes, follow the vehicle, and so it's a full custody chain with our staff following that box. That box gets taken into the into the counting area, and as it arrives, it gets signed off by all the various political parties that are basically taking part in that event. They cut the cord on it, they take all the paper out of that box, and then they put it on a table in front of, like, for instance, 3 or 4 tables for that ward. The next box is brought in from wherever, and it's repeated, open it, signed off that this box has come from there, and our staff have followed it. This is a full chain of custody for these boxes with people's votes in it. What happened in Rochdale was, which is the local council office is a 3-minute drive from the local council to the counting centre, and if you walked it, it's a 5-minute walk. So they need to take those 2 boxes, or 1 box, or whatever it is, and bring it to the counting office. What then is supposed to happen is it's supposed to come in through the same door as everyone else, and everyone turns and goes, that's the mail ballot. They then take that box, and they don't put it on one table, they then spread it out across all of the tables to make it anonymous, more anonymous. And the mail ballots are basically, or the mail votes are then part of the whole thing, and then once everything is in, you start counting. So maybe it'll take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour for all the boxes to arrive, and you start counting after everything's in, including the mail voting. that was done. In Rochdale, 2 of my staff had gone out at about 12:20 to smoke. And I'll give you the video.
This is on the final day of voting. The counting was being done.
So the counting is already started. We think
Right.
that the mail boxes have arrived and they've been put through the system. 2 of my staff are sitting in a car having a cigarette, and they see 2 guys get out of this black car with 2 mailboxes, like the 2 voting boxes, like, you know, the actual boxes where the votes are in. And this guy walks into the front door.
There were 2 guys. you
2
said.
guys,
Yeah.
right? And you look at the guy, and he's looking to his right, he's looking to his left, like, is anyone watching us? Are we okay? It looked dodgy as hell. And they walk in with 2 boxes. They didn't bring those 2 boxes in through the same door as all the other boxes. They brought them in and they put them under the table inside of the square.
And how do you know they put them under that table?
Because there's a picture of those boxes with a woman sitting in front of it. Now, on top of all of this, I've had one of my staff go around, and I've said to him, do me a favour, go and check how many votes George has got and see how many votes whoever the next person is, right? And what happens is when they count the votes, it's a piece of paper. When you've got 100 votes, it gets rolled up with an elastic band, and that roll becomes effectively 100 votes. And they put, so for instance, Paul Wall would have his own area where his votes are put on, George is put on, and other people put on. When the vote was, when I had one of my staff at about 12 o'clock go and count how many rolls there are, so it's not always 100, there would be up to 100, and one of them will be less than 100, because it could be 7 rolls of 100 and one could be like 35. The important thing is, when I said to him, go and count George's, how many rolls he's got, George had 122 rolls, which could be up to 12,200 votes, right? I said, go and count Paul Wall's one. He had 122 rolls as well.
This is the Labour candidate who was declared the winner.
Correct. He had 122 rolls as well, at about 12 o'clock, okay? Those 2 boxes came in at 12:20. The final tally was something like George had under 12,000 and they had just over around 13,000. The difference was those mail votes, pretty much all of them came out for Paul Wall.
Now, you went to the police about this, I understand.
I sent the videos, we sent everything to the Greater Manchester Police, and we said to them, you need to investigate this, and they turned around and said there's not enough evidence for an investigation to take place. They didn't do anything.
They didn't even question these 2
They
characters.
didn't talk to anyone. They just said there isn't enough evidence. This is the same Greater Manchester Police that watched for years as Cyril Smith, who was the MP for Rochdale, who was a paedophile, an absolute paedophile, who used to go to a kids' foster home that was put up and just rape children. This is the same Greater Manchester Police that did absolutely nothing about him. They are a police force that is as corrupt as it comes, and they were not going to do anything about Rochdale.
Just because many in our audience may have never heard of this depraved individual, was he convicted eventually of pedophilia?
Of course not. No, he died, and after he died, just like Jimmy Savile, they turned around and said, oh, by the way, he was a paedophile.
Well, that, folks, is British democracy for you. Quite a remarkable story, Huz. I think you mentioned you're going to share the video with us.
I will send you it so you can show it.
Okay, we will conclude this report with the video of these 2 ne'er-do-wells walking into the counting centre. And I understand also that this has not been reported upon previously by the media. Is that correct?
Not really, no. I've put it out there, but no one picks up on it. It's as if they don't want it to go out there.
Well, thank you very much for talking with us
pleasure.
today. It's been a true honor to speak with you. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for
Got it on video, yeah?
Yeah, on video, you know. All these guys doing
I'll tell him Charles that, yeah?
Yeah. Let me ring him, George. I'll ring you back.
All right.
Okay.